Hey everyone, Arashi here, backing in with just another upload and another question that's been honestly on my mind for a long time, ever since I'd say the end of the sequel trilogy. Now, as we all know, the sequel trilogy wasn't really well received by fans, me included. I'm one of those fans. I'm probably one of the biggest critics you'll meet about the sequel trilogy. But from the standpoint of a director, producer, and a creator in myself, I honestly can't help but look at the characters and think to myself, man, these guys really had a lot of potential. Now, I know it's very polarizing to say that these characters had a lot of potential. I know, I understand 100%, and wouldn't say I hate them, but I dislike the sequels just as much as the next guy. But I truly believe that these characters can eventually be redeemed someday. Maybe in some other form of Star Wars content, maybe in another movie someday, maybe in a show or something like that. But I honestly believe Kylo Ren, Rey, I don't want to call her Skywalker. She's not a Skywalker. But anyway, I digress. I honestly believe that these characters and even these movies, heck, they can all be redeemed at some point. Hopefully, I just really hope that they can. For me personally, I just hate inconsistencies. Like, we can't have something as cool as Ahsoka come out recently and Mando seasons 1 and 2. I don't really count season 3. And we have a lot of cool stuff coming into Star Wars, and we've had stuff that's come out of Star Wars that fans overall liked. We just can't have the inconsistencies of this being the only dark side. Now, main question is, where do you begin, honestly, with trying to reform these characters? And can they even be reformed and be brought back to some good point of Star Wars? Which, that's a question to be answered later on how Disney handles all this. Honestly, it's as simple as start from the top. You want to start with Rey. You want to start with Rey Palpatine and understand exactly how we can change her character to be more well-liked. Well, before that too, I would like to throw in that I will be doing a deep dive into each one of these characters and to really understand how we can change them. But anyway, secondly, you want to look at your antagonist. Coming off the success of the prequels too, you really just can't miss here. I mean, they did it. They missed completely, but it was really hard to do so. You have to actively try to do so, honestly. Well, I should say the later found success, the prequels, because as we know, Star Wars fans are really brutal to the prequels before, and a lot of the actors and actresses are just now getting their shine in their limelight, such as Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. Now, first, I would like to bring up Disney's whole thing. This is a clip of me at Galaxy's Edge on the Star Wars ride there, the new one. And the reason I show this clip is because this is the whole reason why I think Disney bought it. It's a moneymaker. Disney bought Star Wars for the name. They didn't really care too much about making it look good. They just wanted it to make money, which it successfully did. Star Wars has brought a lot of money to Disney, and it's just it's honestly just business 101. Anybody in their shoes would have honestly done the same thing. But to buy something and then also not treat it with complete and total respect is where Disney absolutely missed. When you buy something as big as Star Wars, you want to treat it with the absolute respect. I mean, it was already well established within itself, coming all the way back from the 70s. I mean, come on now. I mean, you have to treat something like this with complete and total respect. But Disney absolutely disregarded that. And ever since Disney bought it in 2012, it just seems like it's all gone downhill, which it kind of has in terms of quality and what we're getting on screen. With a few outliers being Mandalorian Season 1 and through 2 and Ahsoka, the most recent show that come out. And also Rogue One was pretty alright. Now, I know Andor has been pretty highly received, but it just kind of was, to me, it was just kind of meh. It was just kind of there, and I honestly think that they didn't try as hard on it, but that's a topic for another discussion. I mean, feel free to write in the comments what you feel about Andor. But anyway, I digress. Let me talk about the more business standpoint from Disney's perspective. Now, who are we kidding? Honestly, if you were to sit there and say that you had the opportunity, let's say you're the Disney CEO at the time. I don't know what his name was at the time when he bought Star Wars, but say you're him, you're in his shoes, and you have the opportunity to buy Star Wars, bring it to your lands, have it make all this extra revenue, create lands for it and all that, etc., etc. You would 100% take that deal 200% of the time. I still think it was a great business deal, the acquisition of Star Wars going to Disney. Now, where Disney made a big mistake was when you buy something as big as Star Wars and is just a huge impact overall in the media that Star Wars has had, and you have a well-established fan base with millions upon millions of fans, literally generations to generations, you want to appease that main core fan base. So fans of the originals and fans of the prequels had to have come first. And I honestly don't think that Disney had that in mind when they first conceptualized their version of Star Wars. Now, this is probably going to be a hot take to say this, but honestly, it's probably 70% Disney's fault, maybe 75. Heck, I'd even give them 80% Disney's fault, honestly. Now, I am going to explain everything and why I feel like it's 80% Disney and 20% us. Now, one thing that I'm always willing to talk about and what I'm preaching about all the time and is just a life value of mine is to have a bit of accountability. And honestly, with Ahmed Best, we have to hold some accountability with that. Now, for the ones who don't know, Ahmed Best played Jar Jar Binks in the prequel series, and honestly, we completely bullied this man to the point of where he was committing suicide, where he was standing on the side of a bridge willing to jump off at that moment. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ahmed Best played Jar Jar Binks in the prequel series, and honestly, it was pretty tragic what happened to him. He was bullied to the point where he wanted to commit suicide just because he played Jar Jar Binks in the prequel series. And fan reaction, as you guys know, nobody liked Jar Jar Binks when he first was on screen. Now, as fans, we need to learn. I know it's a lot to ask for because we live in just the internet world right now and everybody has an opinion about everything and everybody's an expert on everything. But we have to disassociate the actors and actresses on screen and learn when it's bad writing and bad producing, and just focus on that. And giving out death threats, I mean, come on, guys. Seriously. I mean, that's just too much for anything in life. That's just too much if you're going to kill somebody over it. And Ahmed Best isn't the only one. I mean, Hayden Christensen, even the guy who's loved so much nowadays, he was almost driven to retirement due to worldwide harassment by Star Wars fans. And I can go on. I mean, even in the sequels, we have Daisy Ridley. I mean, honestly, John Boyega just kind of fired back. He wasn't taking any of that stuff. But Rose's girl played Rose Tico. All got bullied to the point where they just don't even want to show their faces anymore. And I can see why Disney potentially didn't want to appeal to those fans and just outright make a new Star Wars. But my rebuttal to that is you bought it. This is what comes with it. And you have to curate and make that core fan base happy so this doesn't happen anymore. Now, I know those fans who were giving out the threats were definitely the minority, and honestly, they should just be outcasted completely out of the Star Wars fan base. If it's up to me, I would not want anything to do with those guys, honestly. But who I am talking to are that core fan of Star Wars fan base that's just like me, who just wants to see Star Wars be great again, no matter who owns it. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying don't criticize here. Heck, I hate the sequels. I honestly do. I hate the sequels. I can't stand them, but it's like a bad sports contract. We're stuck with it for the next couple years. We have another 3 movies with Rey in it, so why not just redeem what we already have? We have to embrace where we're at. And instead of just bombing Star Wars for every little thing that they do, which honestly is granted, don't get me wrong, completely granted, and I think that they need to be criticized in some areas. But as an overall fan base, we kind of need to just embrace where we're at because we're not getting out of this anytime soon. And I believe that I want good Star Wars. That's all I want is good Star Wars content. And I believe that Disney can deliver that. I mean, heck, there's people already there that take more responsibility and are more well-liked than a lot of other people that are directing Star Wars nowadays, such as Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. They need to be in charge full-time 100%. And even though George Lucas plays a more minor role in Star Wars nowadays, they still go through him 100%. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have meetings and conference calls with George Lucas all the time, just to essentially get approval. And I think that goes a long way in why shows like Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2, and we have shows like Ahsoka that did so well because they still go through George, technically. And as I mentioned earlier, it all starts from the top. Everything comes down from the top. So honestly, I believe what needs to happen at Disney is Kathleen Kennedy needs to be out and just on other projects. Maybe she can go be leader of Indiana Jones. I mean, who cares? As long as she gets her grubby little hands off of Star Wars. I believe that John, George, and Dave need to just sit around maybe for a year or so and hire all the right people. Like, all the people that are being hired as subordinates of Star Wars are not the right people. And then maybe delay every Star Wars project for a while, and maybe for like a year or two, just so we can get the right people in charge of these projects. And I honestly believe that'll go a long way into redeeming Rey, Kylo, to redeeming all the sequel characters in total. I believe that if we get the right people involved, then we can actually have some decent or good Star Wars content coming out of Disney, except for the one-offers like Ahsoka and Andor, I guess, and a few others. And as a fan base, we have to keep delivering constructive criticism, not this criticism where we're saying we're going to kill somebody or anything like that, or they should be put to death or bring them to the guillotine or something like that. That's just ridiculous. And to Disney, I think you need to stop labeling us fans, honestly. You need to give up, you need to let your ego go, and you need to stop saying that, oh, we don't like this character just because he's a girl or something like that. I believe the fan base has completely did a 180 on you guys, because you guys couldn't prove that with Shin Hati. We love Shin Hati, but we don't like Rey so far. And as a singular Star Wars fan, I'm not ready to give up yet. I honestly believe that we can do this. We can bring great Star Wars, or bring Star Wars back to greatness. But it takes two to tango. And Disney, as I said earlier, you have about 80% of the hold on this. So what you guys need to do is you need to listen to the fans a little bit more, and you need to give us a little bit of grace as well. Ball is in your court for the beginning part, Disney. You have to initiate it first. Now, I'm currently working on a video right now about Rey and how we can fully redeem her. I know this video wasn't the full explanation, but I'm going to do a section for each character, essentially. So please stay tuned for that. And as always, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I love to read and look at those. And anyway, may the Force be with you, and have a great rest of your day. Later.